The millionaire discovers on their first night that his black beggar wife hid a secret. Lucas stood by the towering window of his penthouse, the city lights blinking like 1,000 broken promises below. The party had finally died down. Music faded into the walls, glasses emptied, laughter turned into tired whispers. Aisha sat across from him, stunning as ever, her smile soft and warm, just like he'd dreamed. Or so he thought. His heart was a thundering drum in his chest. Pure joy, pure relief. Tonight, it was supposed to be the start of everything perfect. But then, his phone buzzed. Just one message. No name, no number. Just words that clawed at his brain. She was a beggar, a liar. Poverty was her mask before charm took over. The cold hit Lucas like a punch. His hands trembled as he swiped the screen, eyes wide, mouth dry. Could it be true? The woman he believed was his dream partner, the one who had captured his every heartbeat, had a secret past he'd never imagined. His mind whipped into a wild spiral. He thought back to the wedding. Her sharp laughter that floated like a melody through the grand hall. The silk dress hugging the curves everyone admired. The delicate kindness in her eyes that made him feel like the luckiest man alive. But now, doubt strangled those memories. How much had been real? How much was a lie crafted to hide the cruel truth? Lucas's chest tightened. The thought of Aisha struggling in poverty, of her possibly weaving false stories just to escape it, cut deeper than any blade. Yet part of him rebelled violently against the idea. How could the woman who'd held his hand this whole night be someone so different? It felt like betrayal, a venomous betrayal that pooled thick and bitter in his veins. He glanced at Aisha. She was reaching out, eyes searching his face, her mouth opening like she wanted to say something, anything, but there was a flicker in her gaze. Fear? Resignation? He couldn't tell. Then another message popped up, sharper this time. Her past is tied to dangerous people. Watch your back. The room suddenly felt suffocating. The glimmer of the city outside seemed cold and distant. Lucas's heartbeat thundered loud enough to drown out the silence that settled between them. Was this all a story she'd told herself before she met him? Was she running from ghosts darker than he ever dreamed? His mind raced, torn between the woman he loved and the stranger who might be sitting beside him. Suddenly, loud whispers floated from the hallway. The door creaked open, and a stranger stepped inside, face shadowed, eyes cold. In one hand, a folded envelope. Lucas stared. His hands shook. The truth was no longer hiding. What did this visitor know? What would the letter reveal? The night was far from over, and Lucas was trapped in a storm where love, fear, and danger collided. What had he really married? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're here, drop a powerful like. That really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and let me know in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Lucas's eyes locked onto the stranger, heart pounding like a relentless storm. The envelope looked out of place in the sleek luxury of the penthouse, a stark reminder of reality's rough edges. He barely breathed, caught between dispa. Lucas's voice trembled, barely audible over the pounding in his ears. The stranger didn't reply right away. Instead, he took a slow step forward, his face obscured in shadow. He extended the envelope like a poisoned gift. "I have something for you." Aisha's grip tightened around her glass, her gaze darting between Lucas and the looming figure. "Lucas, maybe we should—" "Shh!" he snapped, his eyes never leaving the man. The room felt alive, every shadow seeping into the corners and holding secrets. "Open it. You need to see for yourself," the stranger urged, his voice low and deadly serious. A chill wrapped around Lucas, knotting his stomach. He reached out, his fingers brushing the envelope's edge. It felt heavy, weighty, with the promise of truth or lies. With a swift pull, he tore it open, eyes racing through the contents inside. Papers spilled out, each sheet filled with names, dates, and photographs. Aisha's laughter reverberated in his memory, a sweet melody that felt like a distant echo now. As he sifted through the documents, his breath caught in his throat. A photograph stopped him cold. A different woman, a familiar face. It was Aisha. But this Aisha was framed with another man, a sinister grin etched on his lips, and beside them, a child. "No! No!" His voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. It couldn't be real. Aisha was suddenly beside him, panic etched on her face. "Lucas, please, just let me explain." But this, Lucas couldn't finish, his mind racing. "This isn't who you are, who I thought you were. Look at the date," the stranger interjected, voice low, urgent. "This doesn't merely trace her past. It's a warning. You don't know who you're dealing with." "In the envelope," Lucas blurted, holding the photo up. "Who are these people? Why were you hiding this?" Aisha stepped back, hands trembling, tears pooling in her eyes. "Lucas, just listen to me." Then it happened. An explosion of sound. The door burst open, slamming against the wall. Chaos overtook the penthouse as armed figures streamed in, faces hidden under masks. Gunfire erupted. Lucas ducked, dragging Aisha down with him. In that moment, emotions collided. Love, fear, confusion. A wild, thrumming beat echoed in his chest as Aisha gasped. "I didn't want you to find out like this. I was trying to protect you." Shouts filled the air. Lucas's protection instinct kicked in. He pushed Aisha behind him. The stranger had vanished into the shadows, along with clarity. Now there was only turmoil and urgency. "Run!" he shouted, adrenaline surging as he glanced back at her. "We need to get out!" As they scrambled toward the side exit, chaos zapped through the air. Lucas stole a glance at Aisha, whose face morphed from terror to determination, then back to fear. What hadn't she told him? Was she really the woman he loved? Suddenly, the wall behind them erupted with a gunshot, splintering wood and plaster. Aisha yelped, grabbing his arm, pulling him as they plunged into the unknown, heartbeats racing together, the truth at their heels. What dark secrets were trailing her? And more hauntingly, what was lurking within him? The night spun into a whirlwind of danger and despair. And with every moment, the truth unraveled deeper. Love and betrayal intertwined. The fate of their lives hung by a thread. Lucas stared at the stranger as the man stepped further into the room, the envelope dangling from his fingers like a noose. His eyes darted to Aisha, confusion swirling in a storm inside him. "Who are you?" Lucas's voice cracked, suspicion flooding his tone. "I'm here for her," the stranger said, voice low and steady. The room felt like it was shrinking. "You don't know the half of what you've gotten into." Aisha's face paled, the warmth he admired flickering awe. "No, please. You shouldn't be here." The stranger took another step forward, power radiating from him. "You think you can escape past debts? You think he'd let you go, sweetie?" Lucas felt the vicious twist of betrayal in his gut. Debts? What kind of life had Aisha led? Before he could wrap his mind around answering, she spoke, her voice trembling but fierce. "I'm not your property anymore. I chose him." The man laughed, harsh, cruel. "You think love sets you free? You know nothing, and he knows even less." The envelope was held out like a contract of doom. Lucas hesitated, fighting the urge to take it. Aisha moved closer, trying to shield him. "Don't! You can't trust him." "I have to know," Lucas replied, his heart pounding with dread and curiosity. "No!" Aisha's hands shook as she clutched his arm, panic in her eyes. "You'll just get dragged in." The man stepped closer, looming, and dropped the envelope on the table like a ticking bomb. "Open it, and you'll see who you've really married. The truth isn't like your pretty little fantasies." Aisha's breaths came in quick bursts, her gaze darting between Lucas and the man. I can explain everything, I promise. Just trust me." Lucas felt the weight of her look press down on him, but doubts tangled in his mind. What was the truth? What could a simple letter reveal? The city outside pulsed with life, but inside this room, time stood still. With trembling hands, Lucas reached for the envelope, breaking the seal. A piece of paper slid out, and as he unfolded it, a photograph stared back. Aisha, no longer the elegant woman he knew, but a disheveled girl holding a child he hadn't known existed. His chest tightened, a lump forming in his throat as he read the words scrawled beneath it. "Your wife is a thief. She takes from people in their worst moments. Be careful, you might lose everything." The world tilted. Aisha gasped, her eyes shimmering with tears. "Lucas, it's not like that. I never wanted to hurt." But he was already backing away. "What have you done?" The stranger chuckled again, the sound echoing like a death knell. "What you thought was love is a trap, a mask she wears. She never turned her back on her past. She just ran from it. But it's coming for her, and now for you. What will you choose?" The room darkened as Lucas felt more isolated. Each heartbeat a countdown. Trust shattered, love questioned. Aisha reached out desperately, but the distance felt infinite as the stranger's laughter faded into a chilling silence. Lucas realized the truth wasn't just a letter or a photo. It was buried deep in the secrets they'd both kept. And no matter what choice he made, stepping forward would mean crossing a line he could never return from. The storm was just beginning. Lucas felt his world tipping, the ground beneath him shifting like quicksand. Aisha's voice, choked with fear, faded into the background as he stared at the photo. Anger flared in him, a roaring fire fueled by betrayal. But then, something in Aisha's expression stopped him cold. A flicker of something. Desperation? It was more than fear. "Lucas," she pleaded, "listen to me. Please, you have to believe me. I can explain everything." The stranger let out a sharp laugh, dismissive and filled with disdain. "She's a master at spinning tales. Look at her! What do you really know about her? That her charm drew you in?" But as Lucas looked at Aisha, he thought he saw a glimmer of truth swimming in her eyes. A truth so deep it both terrified and enthralled him. He opened his mouth, ready to demand answers, when suddenly the room erupted into chaos. What felt like an earthquake suddenly shook the walls. The lights flickered violently. A dim drumbeat of panic set in motion. Just as Lucas instinctively pulled Aisha closer, there came a deafening crash, a shattering noise that rippled through the air. A massive figure burst through the glass of the penthouse, shards cascading like glimmering rain. A masked silhouette loomed ever closer, and then, shockingly, in a blink, the stranger who had brought chaos into their lives was pinned down by that very figure. The element of surprise rendered useless. "What in the world?" Lucas shouted. And then the impossible happened. The masked figure pulled off its balaclava, revealing not a stray. "Jake, what the hell are you doing?" "A few truths needed unveiling," Jake huffed, catching his breath, staring at the stranger writhing at his feet. "Trust me, Lucas. This isn't what it seems. It's worse." "Worse!" Aisha took a step back, her hands trembling. "You brought him here? You don't know what he's involved in." But Lucas's focus remained on Jake. Layers of past and present crashing into one another, thick and festering. "What's happening? Why are you here?" And then Jake kicked the envelope away from the stranger's grasp, his gaze locking onto Aisha. "You didn't tell him everything, did you?" Before she could respond, a voice rang out from the shadows, a voice that sent chills down Lucas's spine. "You're never going to get rid of me." The stranger grinned, a malevolent smile that spoke of years of hidden malice. "My debts don't vanish, they follow." A cruel glimmer flickered in his eyes. "And now, neither will she. The truth, Aisha, is darker than you can imagine." Suddenly, the room felt 10 times smaller, suffocating under the weight of secrets, revealing themselves like poisoned ivy. Aisha's shaking hands reached for Lucas, but the shock on his face held her still. In that moment, everything twisted. Lucas realized Jake wasn't just here to save him. He was entangled in something much larger, something dangerous that revealed the ties of loyalty and betrayal. "What do you mean, follow?" Lucas's voice rose. "Urgencia bliden tanto." "What did you do, Aisha?" "Furia and frustración batallan contra él, una tempestad maligna." Una mirada pasó entre Aisha y Jake que no podía leer, un tergente silencioso que se sentía más como una bola de plata, y después, como si fuera la sirena japonesa, un sonido de caos aproximándose de puerta hasta el mundo de su lujo, cascadena de preguntas. ¿Cuánto profundo esto fue? Was Aisha a shopkeeper off the streets or a soldier in a war he hadn't even known existed? Tell me the truth, he said, pressing Aisha with his eyes, a plea soaked in desperation. But before she could speak, Jake added, "You've been living a lie, Lucas. And right now, you need to decide what kind of man you truly want to be before it's too late." As the sirens wailed ever closer, the room pulsed with uncertainty, secrets knocking at every corner. And even as the options opened like dark doors, one echoed louder than. What was the truth that lurked in the shadows? And would they all make it out alive to face whatever came next? Lucas stared at the stranger, heart racing, pulse pounding. Who was this person? What did he want? The envelope hovered in the air like a storm cloud, heavy with unseen rain. Aisha's face froze, the warmth of the moment evaporating into cold confusion. Who are you?" Lucas managed to croak, eyes darting between the intruder and Aisha. The air thickened, charged with something electric. The man stepped forward, shadows playing across his face, revealing sharp features and a hardness that cut through Lucas's resolve. "You need to listen. Now." Lucas's chest tightened. Dread coiled in his stomach. "This is my home! Get out!" He stood his ground, fists clenched at his sides. "Lucas!" Aisha whispered, her voice trembling. She reached out, but the stranger just pushed the envelope toward him. "Before you discard this, know what you're choosing. Aisha's life is intertwined with people you can't imagine," the man said, voice low and dangerous. His eyes bore into Lucas. "And they're coming here." Aisha looked pale, lips parted in shock. "Please," she said softly. "Don't listen to him." Lucas's heart sank, caught between anger and desperation. "What does that mean, Aisha?" The question burst out, raw and threatening. "Who are these people?" Too stunned to reply, Aisha was frozen, a sudden chill settling over the room. The soft flicker of the candles seemed to dim, shadows crawling further into the corners. The man stepped closer, urgency flashing in his eyes. "I'm here to help, but you have to trust me. She's been running for years, from debts, from people who don't forgive easily." Fear gripped Lucas. He turned to Aisha. "Is this true?" Finally, the emotions broke through her facade. Tears brimmed in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. I wasn't always who I am now. I had no choice." See, her pain splintered as her voice broke. Lucas's breath caught, heart racing as a whirlwind of thoughts swirled. Aisha as a beggar? A life in danger? Suddenly the door slammed open. Aisha's eyes widened, her expression shifting from fear to sheer horror. A group of men stood in the doorway, faces obscured by the dim light, hard and menacing. One of them stepped forward, and the glint of a blade caught the room's light, slicing through Lucas's breath. "Where is she?" The voice was gravelly, booming through the tension like thunder. Lucas's mind raced. The game had changed in an instant. Was Aisha a victim, or the architect of a greater deceit? "Lucas, run!" she screamed, panic flooding her voice, eyes pleading. But he was frozen in place, torn between the woman he thought he knew and the chaos unraveling before him. "Now! They don't care about you!" She lunged forward, reaching for him, but the shadowy figures pushed past her, advancing. The world fell silent. each heartbeat echoing like a gunshot. Lucas's thoughts spiraled, everything he believed crashing down around him. He could feel it, the weight of betrayal, of secrets unraveling. Then it happened. A loud crash echoed from the hallway as a body tumbled into the room. "Trust me," she shouted. But could he? As chaos erupted, Lucas realized he had a choice. His whole life was suddenly at stake, entangled in a web of lies and shadows. What had he really married into? And would he even make it out alive? Lucas's breath hitched as the stranger stepped into the soft glow of the room, the tension humming like an electric wire. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears, drowning out the silence. The envelope clutched in the visitor's hand seemed to pulse with secrets. Lucas wanted to reach out, to grab it, but fear anchored him to the ground. "Who are you?" he managed, eyes darting from the stranger's face to Aisha's, searching for her reaction. Any sign of recognition. The intruder shifted, eyes sharp and calculating. "Just a friend of Aisha's," he said, voice smooth, almost mocking. "I come bearing gifts." He unfolded the envelope slowly, the sound slicing through the charged air. "Stop!" Aisha's voice was low and urgent, eyes wide, betraying a depth of panic that made Lucas's stomach twist. "You shouldn't be here. Shouldn't be here." The visitor threw his head back, laughter echoing, dark and hollow. "You thought you could escape? You thought you could run from your past and live a fairy tale? No more lies, Aisha." Lucas's heart raced, each beat a drum of dread. He looked back at Aisha, confusion swirling with hurt. "What is going on?" Aisha's gaze flickered. "Lucas, please, let me explain," she stammered. But the weight of the intruder's words loomed heavy, suffocating. He pressed on. "Explain what? That you were hiding something? That you're not who you said you were?" The sting of betrayal cut deep, a raw wound he didn't know how to navigate. With trembling hands, the stranger opened the envelope. "You're right, Lucas. All of it." He pulled out a series of photos, holding them high for both of them to see. "Here she is, your lovely bride with them." The snapshots fanned out like a deck of cards. Aisha posed with figures in dark suits, eyes full of secrets, a smile that was sharp enough to cut the air. Lucas stepped back. His mind raced, spiraled into chaos. "What is this?" Aisha's hands flew to her mouth, eyes shimmering with unspoken horror. "I can explain," but her voice was drowned out by the stranger, who continued reveling in the unfolding drama, his glee growing. "Or maybe you've already figured it out? Your charming black better wife? She's a queen in a different world, Lucas, one you know nothing about. This was never just a wedding. It was a transaction." He laughed, that cold, surreal laughter. And something inside Lucas shattered. Silently, he glanced at Aisha. Was that fear or regret etched on her face? She looked like a complete stranger now, and yet, beneath the surface, there was an unmistakable spark of defiance in her eyes. "Enough!" she suddenly cried, fierceness breaking through the fear. "I own my past. All of it. I am not ashamed." The visitor's amusement faded. "Afraid you'll start to make real enemies, Aisha? Protecting your little toy won't matter when they come knocking." Lucas's heart dropped, the blood rushing from his head. "Enemies? What did she mean? Who were these people? What had he really married? A sudden crash echoed from the hallway, a sound like glass shattering. Before he could react, the door burst open, and two more figures rushed in, faces masked, eyes filled with menace. Lucas stood frozen, heart hammering, as chaos loomed. The night had morphed into something unrecognizable, where love and danger twisted into a single, terrifying thread. Everything he thought he knew was hanging by a thread. Ready as snap, he locked eyes with Aisha. "Tell me everything, now!" But as the stranger's laughter faded behind the chaos, Lucas could only hope that truth would save them before it was too late. The door opened wider, revealing the shadowed figure standing alone. Lucas's breath hitched. There was something in the stranger's posture, something menacing. He stepped forward, the envelope sealed tight in his grip. Lucas's instincts screamed danger. "What do you want?" he demanded, voice sharper than he expected. The stranger's eyes flicked to Aisha, then back to Lucas. "I come with a warning and a choice." "What do you mean?" Aisha's voice came out soft, trembling. She seemed to shrink into herself, the warmth from their earlier celebration evaporating. "They're coming for you, Aisha," he said, with a glance that felt like a knife in Lucas's chest. "You thought you could run? You thought you could hide? But they know." "What?" Lucas's pulse hammered in his ears. "Who knows?" The stranger took a step closer, lowering his voice to a heavy whisper. "The people who trained her, the ones she escaped from, they want their prize back." "What prize?" Aisha's eyes widened, fear mixing with confusion. A flicker of recognition crossed Lucas's mind, a dark shadow of memory he'd buried deep. Suddenly, it struck him. The conversations he'd heard, her hesitant stories from their early days, the way her eyes darkened at the mention of certain places. He thought it was simply a fear of the streets she had survived on. Now, that fear felt like a prison wall closing in on them. The stranger continued. "She's not just a beggar. She's wanted by dangerous people who see her as property. They won't stop until they find her." "Oh!" Aisha shook her head, panic etched on her face. "That's not true. I left that life. I changed." Expecting disbelief, Lucas's gut twisted. Her words felt desperate. "Aisha, is this—" But before he could finish, the stranger thrust the envelope toward him. "Open it. It'll explain everything." Lucas's heart raced. He hesitated, glancing from the stranger to Aisha. They both seemed so far apart, yet he was right in the middle, caught between love and betrayal. His fingers trembled as he tore the envelope open, a flash of paper sliding out. "Stop!" Aisha cried, but the words were lost to him as Lucas read the contents. His eyes scanned the words, faster, more frantic. The revelation hit him like a punch to the gut. "Aisha, it says you were trained as an assassin." Silence enveloped the room. The air thickened, choking him. Aisha's face contorted in horror. As Lucas continued reading, his pulse quickening with each line. The details were chilling. Contracts, names, the very organization she fled from. Everything he thought he knew shattered like glass. "No!" she gasped, as if he had put her on trial. I was forced. I've done terrible things, but I'm not that person anymore. I swore I'd never kill again. You didn't tell me, Lucas thundered, voice exploding in the tight space. You deceived me. Aisha staggered back as if he had struck her. You have to trust me. You don't understand. Through his confusion, Lucas caught the stranger's steely gaze. The urgency in his posture tightened every muscle in Lucas's body. You're in danger, both of you. And if they find her, they'll come for you too. The tension rose. Lucas's mind raced, thoughts colliding caóticamente. Aisha had crafted una nueva vida, una torre, pero esta verdad brillaba como un neón a la luz. ¿Podía confiarle ella misma? Just as he opened his mouth to respond, a crash echoed por el salón. Heavy footsteps thundered closer. Then came the cracking sound of the penthouse door splintering against a powerful shoulder. Fear surged, crowding his chest as a shadowy group poured inside, faces obscured. Forget love, one of them sneered. Time to collect what's ours. The night had turned into a nightmare. The secrets spun tighter. Lives teetered on the edge. And suddenly, every choice Lucas thought he'd made felt like a trap. In this storm of betrayal and danger, the real battle had just begun. The masked figures advanced, shadows flickering in the dim light, their threats cutting through the air like a knife. Lucas felt his heart thunder in his chest. This was more than chaos. It was a storm consuming them whole. "Get behind me!" he shouted, instinctively stepping forward, wanting to protect Aisha. But his mind screamed with doubt. What was this life? And did he even know the woman he loved? Then, without warning, the first masked man lunged, a gun glinting in his hand. "Stay back!" Lucas pushed Aisha behind him, bracing for impact. But before he could react, the air exploded with sound. Gunshots echoed, glass shattered, and screams pierced the air. Lucas ducked instinctively, hoping to shield Aisha with his own body. But then, something hit him hard from the side. Aisha's gasp rang out. She sank to the ground, clutching her shoulder. Pain pierced his heart. "Aisha!" he cried, and the world spiraled. Everything slowed down. The chaos around him blurred, the sounds fading into a harsh whisper. "Stay with me," he urged, kneeling beside her, heart racing with fear. Aisha's breath came in quick bursts. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and pain. I can't," she stammered, tears pooling. "No, don't close your eyes." Lucas gripped her shoulders, panic flooding him. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. He had to keep her safe, had to know the truth. But just as he felt hope slipping away, the stranger, the one who had spilled Aisha's secrets, stepped forward, shock rippling across his features. "Wait!" he shouted, raising his hands as if to calm the storm. "You don't understand." The gunman hesitated. Confusion danced between them. Lucas turned to the stranger, desperation flooding his veins. "You know what's going on? Help us!" "Yes, no, it's not that simple." The stranger's voice faltered. "Aisha, you have to remember why they're here. It's not just about the past, it's about the future." And just like that, a shadow raced past him, charging straight towards Aisha. Time froze. Lucas couldn't move, heart caught in his throat as he realized it was a woman, a familiar face, her expression twisted with rage. "Lucy?" Aisha gasped, recognition painting her features with horror. "What are you doing here?" The woman, Lucy, stopped short, gun aimed steady, but her voice trembled. "You left me! You promised we'd escape together! And now look what you've done!" Panic surged. Lucas clenched his fists. "Aisha, what is happening?" "I didn't leave her," Aisha cried, voice wavering. "I swear, I thought she was dead." But Lucy's face twisted with a different kind of pain. "You lied. You went soft. This life is not for the weak." And then it was sudden, a deafening bang as Lucy's gun went off. A bullet racing through the room, hitting the stranger square in the chest. Everything slowed down. Lucas heard the sickening thud, saw the man crumble to the ground, eyes wide with disbelief. Lights dimmed around them. The weight of betrayal hung heavy. Aisha screamed. "No, you can't!" Time snapped back to reality as horror swept through Lucas. "Why?" The words slipped from his lips, disbelief spreading like wildfire. Lucy just laughed, a hollow sound echoing in the chaos, her gun still steady. "You never knew love like this. You never fought for survival. I chose this life." But Aisha's face crumbled, her tears flowing freely now. "I would have fought for you. I was trying to protect us." A chilling silence enveloped them all. Lucas felt a new kind of fear creep in. Was anyone safe? What had he really married into? The woman he loved was tangled in a web of loyalty and betrayal, and every moment stretched infinitely. The gunfire still rang in the distance, and Lucas realized the walls were closing in. Choices needed to be made, but what would they cost him? Caught in a whirlwind of emotions, Lucas faced the stark reality. Loyalties could shift in a heartbeat, and in this game of survival, nothing was certain. As chaos swirled, he turned back to Aisha, searching her eyes for truth. Suddenly, he heard footsteps crashing towards them again, and the world erupted into madness once more. What was the real threat? What were the hidden ties that bound them all? In that moment, everything felt as though it was spinning out of control, leaving him desperate for clarity, grappling with unanswered questions. The masked figures advanced, shadows flickering in the dim light, their threats cutting through the air like a knife. Lucas felt his heart thunder in his chest. This was more than chaos. It was a storm consuming them whole. "Get behind me!" he shouted, instinctively stepping forward, wanting to protect Aisha. But his mind screamed with doubt. What was this life? And did he even know the woman he loved? Then, without warning, the first masked man lunged, the gun glinting in his hand. "Stay back!" Lucas pushed Aisha behind him, bracing for impact. But before he could react, the air exploded with sound. Gunshots echoed, glass shattered, and screams pierced the air. Lucas ducked instinctively, hoping to shield Aisha with his own body. But then, something hit him hard from the side. Aisha's gasp rang out. She sank to the ground, clutching her shoulder. Pain pierced his heart. "Aisha!" he cried, and the world spiraled. Everything slowed down. The chaos around him blurred, the sounds fading into a harsh whisper. "Stay with me," he urged, kneeling beside her, heart racing with fear. Aisha's breath came in quick bursts. Her eyes were wide, filled with fear and pain. I can't," she stammered, tears pooling. "No, don't close your eyes." Lucas gripped her shoulders, panic flooding him. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. He had to keep her safe, had to know the truth. But just as he felt hope slipping away, The stranger, the one who had spilled Aisha's secrets, stepped forward, shock rippling across his features. "Wait!" he shouted, raising his hands as if to calm the storm. "You don't understand." The gunman hesitated. Confusion danced between them. Lucas turned to the stranger, desperation flooding his veins. "You know what's going on? Help us!" "Yes. No! It's not that simple." The stranger's voice faltered. "Aisha, you have to remember why they're here. It's not just about the past. It's about the future." And just like that, a shadow raced past him, charging straight towards Aisha. Time froze. Lucas couldn't move, heart caught in his throat as he realized it was a woman, a familiar face. Her expression twisted with rage. "Lucy?" Aisha gasped, recognition painting her features with horror. "What are you doing here?" The woman, Lucy, stopped short, gun aimed steady, but her voice trembled. "You left me. You promised we'd escape together. And now look what you've done." Panic surged. Lucas clenched his fists. "Aisha, what is happening?" "I didn't leave her," Aisha cried, voice wavering. "I swear, I thought she was dead." But Lucy's face twisted with a different kind of pain. "You lied. You went soft. This life is not for the weak." And then, it was sudden, a deafening bang as Lucy's gun went off. A bullet racing through the room, hitting the stranger square in the chest. Everything slowed down. Lucas heard the sickening thud, saw the man crumble to the ground, eyes wide with disbelief. Lights dimmed around them. The weight of betrayal hung heavy. Aisha screamed, "No! You can't!" Time snapped back to reality as horror swept through Lucas. "Why?" The words slipped from his lips, disbelief spreading like wildfire. Lucy just laughed, a hollow sound echoing in the chaos, her gun still steady. "You never knew love like this. You never fought for survival. I chose this life." But Aisha's face crumbled, her tears flowing freely now. "I would have fought for you. I was trying to protect us." A chilling silence enveloped them all. Lucas felt a new kind of fear creep in. Was anyone safe? What had he really married into? The woman he loved was tangled in a web of loyalty and betrayal, and every moment stretched infinitely. The gunfire still rang in the distance, and Lucas realized the walls were closing in. Choices needed to be made, but what would they cost him? Caught in a whirlwind of emotions, Lucas faced the stark reality. Loyalties could shift in a heartbeat, and in this game of survival, nothing was certain. As chaos swirled, he turned back to Aisha, searching her eyes for truth. Suddenly, he heard footsteps crashing towards them again, and the world erupted into madness once more. But then, a bright flash illuminated the room, blinding everyone. "Get down," a voice commanded, booming and authoritative. In an instant, an unfamiliar group burst through the door, decked out in tactical gear. They moved in a coordinated dance, weapons drawn, but their focus wasn't on the masked men. It was on Lucy and Aisha. "Secure Aisha," one yelled. The sound reverberated through the chaos. The tension shifted like a tide, leaving Lucas now more confused than ever. As the newcomers swarmed, deflecting shots and shouting orders, Aisha stared at them, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Who are you?" she shouted, recognition dawning on her face. "You're with them!" And just like that, everything shifted. Lucas's mind raced. What were they talking about? He stepped backward, caught in the whirlwind of shifting allegiances and tangled stories. "No, you have it all wrong," Aisha cried, tears spilling down her face. "I'm not your target anymore." But the leader of this new group stepped forward, revealing their face, another familiar one Lucas never expected to see again. "Surprise," said the woman. "You may know me as your mother, Aisha." And just like that, Lucas's world spun into another chaotic orbit. Every truth he thought he understood hung in doubt, twisted beyond recognition. In that moment, he had no idea who to trust or what to believe. Was the real Aisha the woman he married? Or was she part of a dangerous past he had no right to know? There, amid the wreckage of shattered stories, the only certainty left was uncertainty as the storm raged on around him. Aisha stood frozen, her eyes darting between the newcomer and Lucas, her breaths coming fast. You're here?" she stammered, disbelief mixing with fear. "Mom," she whispered, the word barely escaping her lips, heavy with emotion. The woman, her mother, stepped forward, jaw set, determination glinting in her eyes. "I fought too long to let them take you, Aisha. I didn't know where you were, but I knew they would come for you." "What do you mean? I thought I was free!" Aisha cried, anguish spilling over, raw and potent. "Freedom comes with a price," her mother replied, tone unyielding. "They don't just let you walk away. You're a liability now, and they'll stop at nothing to bring you back. You were their best." Lucas watched the whole exchange, confusion folding through him like waves. Was the woman he loved truly tangled in a world he couldn't fathom? His heart ached for Aisha, for the battle raging within her. The masked figures, still aiming their weapons, shifted restlessly, the tension rising like smoke in the room. "Enough!" one of them shouted, voice booming. "This ends now. Hand her over." Aisha stepped closer to Lucas, gripping his arm tightly. "I won't go back!" Lucas's heart raced, the reality of their world closing in. "We need to get out," he urged, scanning the room for an escape route. "Listen to your mother, Aisha." Lucy's voice rang out with an edge of frustration. "This isn't a choice. It's survival." But before she could finish, chaos erupted again. Gunfire rang out, piercing through the heavy air. Lucas shoved Aisha down, instinctively covering her as the walls trembled with the sound of shattering glass. His heart pounded, urgency clouding his mind. "Get to the exit!" he yelled, adrenaline surging through his veins. But Aisha didn't move. "I can't leave her, Lucas. I have to save her. Please." He grabbed her shoulders, eyes fierce. "We can't help her if we're dead." A moment of silence lingered, tension snapping like a rubber band. In that stillness, Aisha glanced at her mother, recognition burning in her gaze. "I won't let you be taken again. I promise." With a determined nod, Aisha turned back to Lucas. "I'm ready. Let's fight." He pulled her close, feeling the warmth of her body, the mix of fear and resolve. "Together, then." And just like that, they charged into the fray. Lucas felt the weight of their love pushing them forward, cutting through the chaos. They maneuvered past the towering shadows of danger, hands clasped tightly, determination fueling their every step. They sprinted toward the back exit, the alarms blaring an ominous warning. But as they pushed through, Lucas felt a strange lightness. Hope hanging in the air. "Lucas!" Aisha shouted, pulling him to a stop. "Look! Ahead, the sunlight pierced through broken windows, the outside world glowing with possibility." He hadn't felt such a rush of freedom in years. They burst through the door into the daylight, breathing in the fresh air, the weight of the past momentarily lifting. But the sense of relief was bittersweet. Shadows still loomed, lurking beyond the threshold. "Where do we go from here?" Aisha whispered, searching his eyes for answers. Lucas looked at her. Their lives mingled in shadows and secrets. "We'll figure it out," he said, but uncertainty rippled beneath his confidence. "One day at a time. Promise me, Lucas, no more secrets." He grasped her hands, squeezing tightly. "I promise." Yet, as they took their first cautious steps into the sunlight, a rumble rolled through the air, a reminder that the past wasn't done with them yet. They had escaped, but the fight for their future had only just begun. With a heavy heart, Lucas couldn't shake the feeling that questions would remain unanswered, truths buried deep. And as they walked, uncertainty trailed behind them, like a shadow meant to haunt. But deep within him, a flicker of hope burned bright. They might carve out their own destiny, where love could burst forth from darkness and light up their lives anew. It all buzzed around them, chaotic and exhilarating. But one thing was certain. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. Hey, before we wrap up this thrilling adventure, I need to make a huge request. If you love this story, please subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories that will blow your mind. This is the moment to show your support. And hey, let's smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Your engagement makes all the difference. I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about how this all ends. What do you think happens next for Lucas and Aisha? And don't wait even a second longer to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this ending. Let them experience the thrill. You know they'll thank you for it. So, what are you waiting for? Let's keep this amazing community growing together.